How are you feeling? After lunch? It's a bit, tired or it's all good? Okay. Tough crowd. No. Good. I will find those two people that have nothing from IKEA. Let's see. But a little bit, thanks for the introduction, but I kind of want to tell you a little bit about myself and where I come from. This is how I made. No, the thing is that ever since I was a kid, I really, really liked taking things apart and to see how they worked, And nothing could escape this fate in our home. And I took apart like cameras and, tape recorders. Do you even know what a tape recorder is? And try to see what made it tick, what was this little thing inside. And contrary to a lot of other kids, I never thought that there was little people in the radio because I checked. The thing with that brought me is that I realized suddenly that everything is designed by somebody. Everything. It was such a fascination with me. Then I was like, oh my God, I kind of have to be one of these people. Then I did. So this is what I do right now. That is my official title. I am a responsible person, obviously. They gave me this title. And now I feel the responsibility about design. So here, I want to ask, is there anybody who did not work with design ever? Did not design anything themselves? Oh my God, you're alone. Good. Okay, that's so to know the crowd, right? And I want to tell a little story. Like a kind of colleague of mine, an engineer, recently he told me that he's changing jobs, and he said he's going to a biometrics company, something, and he said jokingly like, "Oh, I'm going to a place where I won't need designers." And I was like, "What?" Of course, he's joking, but the thing there is, I thought back and I said like, "Wow, It's so obvious to me that design is necessary. Is it really obvious if you just grab somebody from the street? Is it really going to be obvious for them?" I think that is a really big question. And the thing that I've seen most is that if you walk into a white room situation with people that are non-designers, everybody says like, "Oh my God, I can't draw. I cannot draw." So you just do it. They give the whiteboard to you, and then that is basically the definition of design for a lot of people, that whether you can draw or not. So I just want to, does anybody have a piece of paper that they can give me? I will not draw anything. I'm going to waste it, though. Is that okay? Yeah. All right. Okay. So, all right. Catch. Tell me, the worst way of defining design. Yes.
What do you mean by that?
What is the worst definition that you can think of, that what design is not?
Beautiful.
Great. Okay, throw it somewhere else. Catch, come on. Oh my God, you have to play. Tell me, who caught it? Tell me, you, yes. Nice, great. I think that captures it all. So what is beauty, of course, is something that we think about a lot in our daily lives, and maybe it is very interesting about thinking design, but also what makes a designer is also very interesting to think. But it is all about the context, right? Because there are a lot of different kinds of designers. There's like graphic designers, there's other types of designers that maybe, there's hair designers now, and different things. But if you think about the type of design that we are talking about, we have this three components of what makes a fantastic product or a service. You're talking about lovable, doable, and sellable. And you can actually determine the color of your company by looking at the difference between these in terms of weight. which one takes more weight. So doable is a lot about engineering, and engineers love doing things just because they can. And sellable is very interesting because you can be a trader and you can just buy and sell things. But lovable is the one that usually falls off the list very, very quickly. And that is the thing that the designer owns, or rather maybe design owns, because there is a big difference between designer and design. And Jared Spool makes everybody crazy by saying like everybody's a designer. I actually really, really agree with this. Imagine if everybody thought like a designer and acted like a designer in a company, your job would be so, so, so easy. Maybe you don't even have to show up at all. But I mean, it's about advocating the user's needs and advocating what they stand for. This is a very, very famous thing. It's from Dr. Watson himself. He's sending a memo to the whole company saying good design is good business. Note that it's from 1966. So what does it really mean about good design? What did he really mean by that? For me, I have a little test. So whenever we're in a meeting, I imagine that there's a tribune of users looking at us, trying to judge what we are doing. For example, let's say that we're talking about profit margins. How dare we? They will be booing us, throwing us rotten tomatoes, because it is not about that feature that they're waiting for so long, or it is not about something that actually benefits them. So every time we are kind of straying off course in a meeting, I try to think about what would the user say. And this also extends to these critical areas like privacy and ethical issues and everything also. And designer is usually the person that is bringing these issues to the table in meeting rooms. And that is why design is important. But there's then the bosses, right? So maybe 5 people got that reference. I'm too old. The thing is that we are talking about, you heard about HIPPO, what that means, HIPPO? The highest individually paid person's opinion. That's a very big thing in US. You walk into a room and there's the HIPPO that decides everything. There's the boss, But who he gets paid by? The user or the customer. So they are the real boss. And I just want to make this very, very clear. There is a big difference between customer and the user. And I know that in this room, I don't really have to explain this further. But let's try to remember this. There is a big difference between these stakeholders. One is a customer who votes with their wallet. It's usually very obvious. And the other one, the user, is kind of shy. So they talk to their friends. They write reviews sneakily. So you have to be very careful in getting their opinion into the room. And important it is because we are in an era where we can make things up with zeros and ones, and they affect people's lives in physical. I mean, if you don't believe me, you should have seen the Pokemon gym outside of my home last year, and it was crazy. And I think it was discussed extensively yesterday about but one thing that we didn't really discuss was the process of developing an IoT product in a corporate environment. And that is a reality. That is something that we have to deal with. So we are basically in a situation where we are deciding on a lot of small things that might have a very, very big effect. And I don't know how else to say it maybe I can say it in an academic way, is that in the traditional product development, the feedback loop is very long. If you make a chair, you kind of hear about it a little bit, whether it's working or not on the product level, but you hear it very late. But with the digital tools now, we're getting to a point where it's quite instantaneous. You hear about it very, very quickly. It is very different from where we came from, because industrial design came from craftsmanship, right? So the craftsman is making a spoon after spoon after spoon, and then he has a one-to-one relationship with the end user. So if the spoon breaks, or if the parts are not aligned, or if there's a splinter, that comes back immediately. But we don't have that anymore. So IoT kind of stands in the middle of the traditional development process and the new economy software process, where we are talking about like services. So when you talk about the realities of IoT, you have a lot of parts of this is just software. This is the kind of software that you need to write in order to get a connected thing to work in reality. You have the firmware, you have the back-end, front-end, cloud integrations. You have to do all of this to be successful. And what this brings is that making a device that feeds pets automatically is much harder than making an app that connects pet feeders and pet owners these days. It's kind of interesting, like human engineering is easier than machine engineering, you can think. So we come to this point where the feedback loops are quite long and winded for IoT products. So we have to live with this fact. Sometimes it takes 3-4 years for an IoT startup to go bankrupt. That's a long, long, long time to be in limbo, right? And talking about respect to the end user. So there's things that we can do, things that we should do. I mean, if you actually respect the user's situation, you will not toy with them. You will not experiment with them. You will give them things that actually work quite well. It's quite important. And we take this very seriously in terms of mixing curiosity and respect in one go. And now comes the corporate part. So IKEA is a company that, I mean, this is our motto, like literally, creating better everyday life for the many people. And the many people is a quite important subject for us. The many people is the people that have thin wallets but big dreams. And that is basically who we're addressing. And I just want to share you the story of how we came to do this. Anybody know about our smart lighting system? Trot-free. Yes. Nice. And if you don't like it, you can boo me right now. Thank you. So it started from curiosity. It started from like a couple of people thought that, how can we do technology in the home environment, in the home furnishing business? And then somebody said, like, why are we asking the question how? First, we should ask whether. Whether should we do this or not? And then an investigation started. A couple of brave and very clever people were tasked with understanding whether it should be done or not, or if it can. And it's all about the curiosity. And after a while, they did home visits and tried to understand the reasons behind certain things that are relating to technology. Mobiles are getting more and more, and it's a part of our everyday lives. So they came up with this idea of integrating wireless charging into furniture. And it was because they saw the wire spaghetti in houses, and they saw that there was a station for charging things and so on. And maybe they might be a little bit early in the beginning, but then one day we saw this and everything changed. And now we literally we can't make enough of these things. But then they also talked about what else can this be into. And we were kind of like very, very closely related with the lighting. And already IKEA has switched to LED lighting a few years before. So no incandescent bulbs. And that was a very brave business decision, because that also meant like you will be replacing less bulbs. So they looked into the lighting problem, and they did not start from the technology side. They thought about like, what is the problem that we might be solving in people's homes? It's a tiny problem maybe, but it might have big implications. So imagine that you have a lamp that you want to make dimmable. You have an old lamp that is like this hanging from the ceiling. How do you do that? It is quite expensive to install a dimmer. it is actually, if you want to make this remotely controlled, it is even harder. It was much harder. So what they came up with is, what we came up with was the wireless dimming kit. So the idea is that you have a prepared wireless dimmer kit. And another quite important part of IKEA, you might have realized, is the price. So we designed the price tag before we designed the actual product. It is not a gimmick. It is not BS. It is real. And this was decided according to, okay, how can we fulfill this certain need? And further on, they even, brought it down a little bit more. But the important part is that it is not a discount per se. It is not a one-off discount for a special occasion. We want to bring it down to a level where it is the same as the other bulbs, or normal bulbs, if you will. So it was something very small like this, where it is literally the proliferation of a wireless dimmer, a normal dimmer, but it is wireless. And the beauty is that you go to the store, you buy this kit together, and then you put in the battery into the remote control, and you just plug in the bulb, and it works. It is prepared, and everything is pre-configured. So we thought that it's kind of a quite cute thing that it also helps you study, of course. We made a little movie about it and to show. And honestly, it is actually not a very easy thing to show. You're talking about something quite ununderstandable in the way that the normal things work, and that is kind of the cuteness of the IoT. And there was a lot of interesting discussions around whether this would be understandable or not. And I think that some very nice people came up with the idea of this video. So the continuation of the story is that then the question was whether we can make this remotely controlled via an app. And it wasn't because of just because. It was because there was a need for it. People wanted to have timers. People needed to control their home, and they wanted to wake up with light. They wanted to determine certain things by automation and so on. So then we introduced the gateway and the app connected to that. And then the question of voice came, whether it is a good idea or not. And it turns out that it is actually a good idea to be able to, command your lights via your voice. For this, we have communicated, or we have collaborated with different people. I'm sorry, that was, different companies to enable this. And an alternative to this would have been to build our own. But we think that everybody has a certain expertise, and that should be utilized in different areas, such as this also. Now we're collaborating with a sound company that can actually bring something extra to the table. We also have our own sound systems, but in general, the things that drive these two are curiosity about life at home and respect to the end user's budget, their life, and their needs. And if you break it down a little bit further, so the first thing that we do is listen. And this is going to be a little bit lectury maybe, but I really implore you to listen to feedback, internally, externally, wherever you can find it. If somebody is giving you feedback about something, listen to it, and listen and react to it sometime. And also, bringing it back and echoing it is super important. Echo it in the meeting room. And if you can't echo it, do the brave thing and bring an actual user that has complaints into the meeting room. Because they have a lot to say. And if you're actually talking to the end user somehow, you have to also make sure that you are striking a conversation rather than a monologue. So it is very important to have this thing that is two-way. And that also extends to including. We are making things that are for a lot of different people. And I am not only talking about disabilities here. I am talking about the situations in life, for example, where you can only have one hand available because of something. It can be a temporary thing. You can have a baby in one of your hands. So it's quite important. Also, I am also emphasizing that because the voice is a very important part of this journey where there's voice and there's physical remote devices, remote controls in our system, and also the app. And they all have their place. And also, it's quite important to align the interests of the people to the interests of the planet. It is easier said than done, but it is not completely impossible. What you can do is, for example, if you're working with lighting, work with timers so that you can save some energy, because lighting actually has quite a bit of effect on the environment. If you're working with natural materials, make sure that they're sourced from a sustainable place. And if you are working with IoT, make sure that the thing that you do does not end up in a drawer after 3 months. That's the best thing you can do. So, for me, design, as I said, it's one part respect and one part curiosity. And believe me, when you put something in front of people, they will feel how much respect you felt for them during the development process. And they will understand how curious you were to their problem and to their situation. It suddenly becomes some kind of a dialogue. And that's why I sometimes like to say that every product is a service. If you think about your product as a service, you will have a very different mindset. Imagine that you're setting up a restaurant without any wait staff. You will definitely do something very, very differently. And it suddenly becomes a dialogue between the user and the maker. So take advantage of it. Thank you.
Okay, I know we don't have a lot of time, but because you have to run to the airport. But I have a few quick questions to you. I think a few years ago, IKEA was actually going the way of making its own connected products, right? I remember a connected TV set, and it seemed to be going that direction. Is this new cooperation with the Alexas and the Googles and the Sonos of the world really? I mean, they do a lot of things. What do? You make tools that connect to their. It's new, right?
We do both. So we are making our own things. Our connected things are made by us. But we collaborate with companies that have a different kind of knowledge that can maybe fill in the gaps that we might have. So interesting thing about the TV is that we have learned a lot from it. And those are the learnings that we're...
It didn't really fly, if I remember correctly.
Maybe I'm not allowed to say it like that, but...
I tell you.
We learned a lot from it.
Because it would be really tempting if you know that our homes, apart from 2 people, are completely filled with IKEA stuff. There's a lot there. That to develop a system where everything that's connected connects through IKEA, because then you're in the system and you have to buy more stuff from IKEA. Is that not a strategy that makes perfect sense?
It is, but not to us. Okay. Maybe from a pure business perspective, but we would like to keep this a bit open. And we are very curious about working with standards that make for the world in general. And that is why in wireless charging, it's about bringing Qi charging, and also in smart lighting, it's about Zigbee that works with other systems as well. So we don't want to lock anybody into an ecosystem.
Okay,
but
you keep it
we
open.
still would like to would like people to come to us because we have something to offer.
Now, light, of course, Philips was already working in the field. Wireless charging, also the mobile companies are trying to provide tools for that. What area of the household for IKEA is the most interesting right now for IoT products and services?
I would say it is the whole home. And the definition of home is changing. It is not an architectural construct anymore. So a lot of people call their home something else. It is actually changing quite fast because of the mobile phones. And we would like to address the whole home, whatever that means, whatever this new thing means.
But it's not something like you say, okay, the automatic door lock is the next thing, or the security system, or the kitchen, or there's not a specific area. There's not, when you go to IKEA, or there's not one specific area where the IoT stuff will be, where
Exactly. So our first and foremost priority is to make a better life for everyday, for many people. And that means that we have to work with all kinds of products that we have. And that is our assignment as HomeSmart. We would like to bring technology only when it makes sense. And we would like to integrate it as much as we can so that it becomes almost invisible and just providing the benefits rather than the technology.
Okay, I'll give you a tip as a homeowner. No, seriously.
Yes.
Try to look into electronic doorbell security systems. There's many on the shelf. Most of them made in China, which feels unsecure. Seriously, it feels like this is not a secure business. You don't know what you buy, you don't know where it's going, and so forth. So a trusted brand could, work that market. I'm just telling.
Doorbells anyway.
No, but if you have a home with people walking in and out, it's nice to know if the kid's home or not. I mean, it's very practical stuff, She apps me all the time, but anyway. Anybody, a single critical question here for IKEA before we let this man go? Oh, 2. Okay, shout the questions, both. Yes, go ahead.
How's the security implemented?
Security is implemented, and the second one was?
Thank you. I'm not a technical person, so I cannot answer exactly how it's implemented, but currently people say that our security is quite robust, and we get praise for that. There is no username and password to enter, so it is based on physical location. So that covers a lot of the ground, and then there's a lot of things that my smarter friends are doing. And in terms of how threat-free is going, it's going really well, and we would like to expand on it.
All right, that was very critical. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.